What's up, everybody? Welcome. I'm so glad that you are tuning in today. My name's Jacob Peterson, and I'm pumped that you're here today. Listen, if you're here, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this content on all platforms. I believe it's a word for someone. It's going to encourage you as well. Today, we're talking about a big topic, a topic that honestly people have been talking a lot about recently. And I'm just going to give you like a little short condensed version. There's a lot of incredible resources out there to help you in this. But I want to talk about manliness. Oh yeah, manliness. You heard me. And don't tune me out, because I know sometimes that can kind of be a little cliche and like, what am I going to talk about? Am I just going to like eat a pound of brisket this entire time and just stare at the camera as I eat brisket? No, what does it mean to be a man? Because honestly, we're asking that question a lot these days. What does this look like? And what is a man actually called to do? I do believe that God has given men a specific assignment. We see that throughout all of Scripture. And as you're on this journey, and I feel like I'm on this journey, I'm 33, I'll be 34 this year. God's still making me into that man, the man God has called me to be. He's still forming me and fashioning me into the man of God He's called me to be. And I want to encourage you in that. There's a few things I want to touch base on this topic. And I want to even kind of break some stereotypes and really address some, maybe even some controversial stuff. The first place I want to start is this. Men are called to be passionate followers of Jesus. Yes. First and foremost, you might be like, man, can't we just skip to the brisket? No. Men are called to be passionate followers of Jesus. And the reason why I want to clarify that is because I believe that's what we need more in this hour than ever before, is burning men of God who are passionate about Jesus. That the days would be over where like men are like the accessories of the church. They just tolerate church. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go because your wife makes you, or you go because your girlfriend made you, or that's just what I do in the South, but I'd rather be watching football. No, like men are called to lead the way spiritually. And I'm not talking about even coming to church and being a knot on log and just like watching. No, I'm talking about men are called to worship. You're called to raise your hands. You're called to pray. You're called to burn. You're called to dance. You're called to cry in the presence of the Lord. That's what you're called to do. I think it's so interesting how, we wonder why like our kids aren't like passionate about Jesus. It's because they're watching us on Sunday mornings. Like I want my kids to look at me and say, man, that's what it means to be a follower of Christ. And men, we're not exempt from that. Well, that's not my personality type. Okay, let's do this. Let's take you to your favorite football game, and let's see how you respond when they throw a touchdown. Is it, well, that was good. I'm glad. Can't wait for this to be over. No, men lose their mind. I've seen grown men on Instagram and social media cry when their team loses. Y'all, that's embarrassing. That's sad. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you love a football team more than you love Jesus, there's a problem. Men are called to be passionate pursuers of Jesus. We read our Bible, we pray, we fast, we seek God, we worship, we dance, we cry in the presence of the Lord. That's who we're called to be. That's where we find our real identity. Because here's the deal. You can try to find your identity in all these different things, manly things. Find your identity in building things and, hunting and fishing and, all that stuff, working out. You might be able to deadlift 500 pounds, all that cool and awesome stuff that I love. But my identity as a man comes from the Lord. He identifies me, and I want that to be your starting point. There's a story in the Bible with Jacob and Esau. I love this story. It's a hilarious story, actually. You know the story where Jacob and Esau, Jacob is trying to get his father's birthright. He's going to Isaac, and actually Jacob's mom is trying to deceive their father so that Jacob gets the blessing. And do you remember the part of the story where they're in there and Jacob, he puts on like goat skin. He actually puts on Esau's clothes and he goes to his father And what does his father say to him? Who are you? Who are you? And I know that's a moment where he's asking him, like, who's this in the room? But those words always struck out to me, because I feel oftentimes the father's asking that, like, who are you? And we're asking ourselves that question, who am I? That's why men bounce from so many different hobbies. You know, like one minute you want a Traeger and you're all about like smoking meat. There's something about like when guys get older, it's like you go like two ways. Like you either start like fishing or like smoking meat on a Traeger, you know, like there's two different pathways before you. It's like, this is why we go from hobby to hobby. We're lifting weights, we're shooting guns. Part of I believe God made us that way. But at the same time, we're looking always for identity. When identity is only found in the presence of the Lord. That's why when Jesus stood in front of Peter and he said, you're Peter. This is who you are. I'm changing your name. You need to allow the Lord to change your name. You know, one story that really illustrates this so perfectly that I love, I've always loved it. It's when actually Jacob's wife, Rachel, is dying. And Jacob's wife, Rachel, is passing away. And you know, they ask her, like, what's the child's name? They said, don't worry, you're going to have this child also. And she says, this child shall be named Benoni, which means son of my sorrow. But I love this because it shows the power of, even out of a tough situation, he was going to be named son of my sorrow. That identity would have carried with him his whole life. But what did his father do? His father stepped in and said, no, his name shall be called Benjamin, which means son of my right hand. I love that. Our identity has to come from the Father. That's why it's so important that we do have a burning relationship with Jesus, so that he tells us who we are, and not culture, society, or your past, or if your father was abusive and your father called you things like a failure and all that. That's not your identity. The Father gives you real identity. So the first thing, remember, that marks us as men is that we're burning, passionate disciples of Jesus Christ. You know, the second thing that I think is so important in this time and age, we're even exploring what it means to be a man, is men are leaders. You're called to lead, and everyone is called to lead someone. I think we have to understand that. You're leading someone whether you know it or not, whether you're single or you're married or you work a job, whatever that looks like. You're a leader, especially as men in the household. We're called to lead our families. That's the truth. Husbands, love your wife like Christ loved the church, as he gave himself for her. We're called to be the heads of our household. We're called to be the prophets of our house, the priests of our house, the protectors of our house. We're called to operate in that place where we're leading our family spiritually. And I want to ask you, are you leading your family? Are you leading your wife? Are you leading her to be a passionate follower of Jesus Christ? To be the wife, the mother she's called to be? Are you leading her in that place? Are you that solid rock she can rely on? Because at the end of the day, I'm telling you, one of the greatest things that causes frustration in marriages is when the husband isn't leading the way he should. Like, are you more consumed in Call of Duty than you are your wife? Yeah, that's a big question. Are you more consumed in fishing and hunting? And like, are you gone all day on Saturdays golfing, but not leading your family properly? Are you there to discipline your children? Are you there to pour into your children, to pastor them, to teach them how to pray? One of the greatest things you can teach your kids is how to be God seekers. Like, let them walk in on you reading the Bible. Let them walk in on you praying. I remember one time I was praying, reading my Bible, trying to have my quiet time, and one of my kids walked in. And the temptation is to be like, no, this is my time. Like, go, do something. But I felt the Lord said, no, let them watch you pray. Like, are you leading them in that way? Are you leading even financially? Like, y'all are saving for a down payment on a house, but you see that brand new Toyota Tundra and you're like, I need it. No. Like, are you leading in that aspect? We're called to be leaders. We got to own that responsibility. Another aspect is we're called to be responsible. Like, these are all qualities of masculinity that I believe we need in this hour. We're called to be responsible, carrying the weight of responsibility. Even right now, like, if you're a single guy, you need to be responsible. I truly believe how we manage ourselves in our single years determines who we're going to be in our married years. So even right now, 20 years old, 19, 20 years old, even 15, 16, 17, are you guarding your eyes of what you look at? Are you bound by pornography? Do you sleep till 12 o'clock every day? Do you have a job? Like, elements of responsibility are a big deal to God and to us being the men of God we're called to be. We're called to operate in this responsibility. Can I encourage you this? Work is not a curse. Work is not a part of the fall. Even if we look back to Adam, I think sometimes we think that even with Adam, like he was put into the garden and, Adam was going to like ride around on lions all day and like, swim and just kind of chill. Like the garden was a place where he was supposed to do nothing. But actually, when God built the garden, he put Adam in there to tend and to keep it. So Adam had a job in the garden. Work is not a curse. Okay? Work is meant to fulfill us. Work is meant to satisfy us. That's why, Paul has some really intense words in the New Testament. Like, if a man does not work, don't let him eat. Like if there's people within men in the church who are not working and just like mooching, like don't support them financially. There's some heavy words that Paul the apostle said. Why? Because men, we're called to work. We're called to work hard. We're called to work with excellence. We're called to work with character and integrity. Even if you're 15 years old right now, or you're 16, you work at Domino's. You be the best pizza maker at Domino's. You know why? Because it glorifies the Lord. Our work ethic glorifies the Lord. And there's something about it, man. If you've ever done like a real day's work, like I remember being like, one of my first jobs was, and I believe every man needs to do this, was landscaping. Like I got hired on at a landscaping company. We'd wake up at like 4 a.m. You'd go out to this job site and you'd weed eat for like 10 hours a day, just weed eating all day long, exhausting. I remember one time is that we have a job. So we went to this person's house and it was my first time to ever lay sod. And we had like 15 to 20 pallets of sod. Hardest day's work I've ever had. I remember wringing my shirt out from sweat, exhausted. But y'all, as a 19-year-old guy, I went to bed that night so fulfilled. I felt like a man. Like, I just did that. Like I worked my tail off today. You need that feeling. We meant to thrive in that, y'all. Like we're not meant to like try to skip out on work. We're meant to thrive in that place. Another aspect we're called to be protectors. Like I believe there needs to be a resurgence of strong men on the earth. Like men, and I love reading the Old Testament, y'all, because it's like, there's some good stuff in there, man. Like David was another level. David's such a beautiful picture of what a man's supposed to be, because at one point you have him writing psalms and poetry to the Lord. And then on the other hand, you have him like beheading giants. Like he like behead giants. He wraps his hands in his locks, like lifts it up. Like that stuff off of like 300, like King Leonidas style, y'all. Like Last of the Mohicans beast, man. Like y'all remember that one story? I love stories like this in the Bible because they're so intense. Remember the one story where Saul is trying to get David killed? And so he's like, whoever wants to marry my daughter must bring me 100 Philistine foreskins. So David's like, all right. And goes and does that. Like he goes and slays all these men and brings it back to Saul. Y'all, he was just a monster, okay? He was so intense. Like David was a strong man of God. And I want to make this difference. There's a difference between being a strong man and then like being a bully. I'm not talking about being some dude who walks around with his chest puffed out because he drives the F-250. No, I'm talking about like a real legitimate, because you know what strength really looks like? Strength looks like being able to hold your temper. Strength looks like being able to control your temper. If you punch holes in the wall, you're a toddler in a grown man's body. Yeah, I mean, it's true. If you lose your temper that much, you're a toddler who drives a Chevy Silverado. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care how old you are. Like men, in the midst of our strength, we're composed. We're strong. We're defenders of our family. We're able, we operate in character, in integrity. We control, like, what does that even mean? Not just strength physically. I'm talking about strength with our character and our integrity. We do what we say when we're going to do it. We're who we are at all, like who we are in public is who we are in secret. Like we're men of strength. We're men of valor. We're men of honor. Like I'm not flirting with women behind my wife's back. That's not why, because we're strong men of God. Like, and if a sketchy girl starts flirting with you, you literally shut it down and walk away. Why? Not because I'm married. That's the thing. I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, I'm not like, oh, no, I'm married. I'm so sorry I'm married. No, I'm a man of God. Like, I'm a man of character. I'm a man of integrity, and I honor my wife. That's why I don't flirt. That's why I don't respond to messages. You know what I'm saying? Like be that individual of strength and valor. And man, that looks like being someone who knows, like, who can lift heavy things, who is physically fit, who's able to defend their family if that happens. Like, I want to be a defender and a good steward of my home and what God's called me to be. And even on that topic, this is random, but I want to be a man who invests into myself to where when I'm 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, I'm playing with my kids and my great grandkids because I've remained healthy and physically strong. I believe that's a big deal. I believe that's something that glorifies the Lord, is how we take care of our temples. Like, are we strong? Listen, I really believe this in this hour more than ever. We need a revival of men of God to step up, to do what God's called them to do, to operate in what God's called them to operate in, and to be the example, to be a light to a lost and dying world. So listen, I don't have all the answers. Here's a couple resources, a couple that I love. Go check out, it's called the Brave Co podcast, BRAVECO. Jay Valentin, incredible. Chris Valentin's on there a lot. It's an incredible podcast on just growing into manliness. Go check that out. Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. It's a great book. You need to Amazon that like tonight if you haven't read that. Play the Man by Mark Batterson. All these are like those two are books. Go hit those up because I believe not like as men we're called to invest into our manliness. Let me say this one more thing. Surround yourself with men of God. Like, you need friends. Stop being an island. Stop being an island. You need friends that you talk to. You need friends that you can do life with. You need friends you can be vulnerable with. Listen, I pray that this helps you and encourages you. Let's get after it. Be a man of God. Be a burning man of God. Surround yourself. Even if there's like an older guy who like you really look up to, like pull him, like, hey, can you teach me how to change the oil in my car? Can you teach me how to deer hunt? Can you teach me how to fish? Go to some older men who you see doing it. Teach me how to be a husband. And allow them to mentor you. Listen, I pray this encourages you. I pray it strengthens you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed it. See you guys next time.